Welcome to the Hollywood Wolfpack Media Den, where I review what the fuck is happening in Hollywood and try to make sense of the changing landscape for all of us, myself included. This episode is the first of this new show, and it's one all about new Hollywood. I'm Kaia Alexander. I'm CEO of The League. This is my boardroom. I'm also a surfer, and I'm the founder of the Entertainment Business School. You may have heard me say that what led to me creating my company was something I call productive rage. Why? I was just seeing too many writers and directors and above the line creators in the pandemic, like totally left in the cold, kept out of the industry by velvet ropes and all the rest. So this show is news updates. It's my professional opinion about what's happening in the industry and a curation of the trends that I see, and also including what you need to know to navigate your career. It's May 2023. We have some fun things to cover this week. Let's go. Let's talk about new Hollywood. What is the opposite of an old white guy screaming at somebody in this industry? It's new Hollywood. I want to give a shout out to my friend Amina, who introduced me to this term. And it's a total paradigm shift for this industry that was built on a legacy of people in power at the top, predominantly white old men who scream at people and keep marginalized communities out of the industry, preventing us from having a microphone and our visions being seen on screen. And now there's a shift happening. I remember when I was a kid, oh my God, I was an only child. And in the afternoons after school, younger than my son is now, and he's 11, I would sit and watch reruns of Star Trek. Star Trek is the vision of new Hollywood. Everything that you love about Star Trek that they're still doing today with shows like Picard. It's fighting for what's right. It's diversity. It's inclusion. It was the first interracial kiss on TV, and respecting alien civilizations, respecting foreign entities, respecting life wherever we may find it. And this is where we're headed. In my classes, I sometimes call it ecosystem logic. In the ecosystem, everybody is connected. Everyone serves an important part and role in creating the most healthy ecosystem possible. When you have an ecosystem that's unhealthy, there's some bacteria that's overrun it, or some disease, or there's not enough coyotes, and then there's too many rabbits, and then the rabbits eat everything, and you can see where the balance gets thrown off. And the same thing is true in Hollywood. With new Hollywood, we have a balanced ecosystem. We have representation. We're getting toward gender parity, inclusion, equality, the things that really, truly matter. And as I've talked to writers who are in those writer rooms of those shows like Picard, you've got Terry Matalas at the helm of creating a show where we have women captains over the age of 40. Thank you very much. I mean, this was a total paradigm shift. It was brilliant. And I got to see women my own age on the bridge of their own starships. And we're fucking inspired to get things done. And this is the direction that we are going in Hollywood. It is inclusion. It is inclusion of the differently abled. There's an outcry for inclusion at every level so that we start to see the diversity of our communities represented on screen. And that's what we're not seeing. The people, the viewers, like our communities, as we look around, when we look on screen and we don't see people who look like us on screen, or we don't see people who have our representation on screen. And that in new Hollywood is changing. Why? Because there's an appetite from the audience, and there's an appetite from the creators to deliver those shows to the audience. And then we have all these gatekeepers who are in the way of that happening. And in new Hollywood, those gates are flying open. They're breaking down. There's a match between audiences who want to see representation and inclusion and creators who are inclusive and come from marginalized groups and want to bring that vision to the world, right? Because Hollywood, look, it started here, started in the United States. We're a global industry, film and television, global industry started here. So it's tough. I mean, look, we're living in a country right now that is actively trying to erase us, actively trying to like keep us out, ban our books. We've seen a bunch of LGBTQ shows get cut. And it was interesting because I went viral on Twitter last week over book bans. What is happening in our country when we are banning books? We're preventing voices from being heard. That is what we're fighting against. We're fighting against a regime that is actively preventing us from unifying and sharing our stories. So I'll be talking about the writer's strike in a minute and what is happening with this. Where did New Hollywood start? It started with Me Too. It started with women looking around and saying, hey, how about stop raping us? How about stop assaulting us in our workplaces? How about we don't give up our bodies in order to get roles in movies? And that became a viral, I want to say sensation, but it's not quite the right word, a viral movement. And the most unfortunate thing about Me Too is it hasn't helped women get jobs. It has not created more jobs in the industry, but it has helped us get into the rooms and say, what voices are missing here? And so often we're looking across the table at the execs and going, are there women here? And there are more men on the executive side of the table than there are women. So we're starting to become more aware, but it's still rising. That tide is still rising. It's still lifting all the ships. We still have to be on our watch with who's missing. And very often it's women, and especially even more so than white women, women of color. So there's some interesting new technology that's come forward. If you're not a member, you should become a member of the Gina Davis Institute for Gender in the Media. She has highlighted and spotlighted some really interesting software that you should be aware of, which is called Spell Check for Bias, especially if you're a writer. I know a lot of writers. Follow me, listen to my podcast, The Hollywood Wolfpack, and are always asking me questions in my DMs on Twitter. What is Spell Check for Bias? It provides analysis of pre-production scripts with the purpose of identifying opportunities for greater representation of marginalized communities within 6 major identities. So gender, race, LGBTQ, disability, my hand won't do it, age, and body type, as well as identification of biases, tropes, stereotypes, representation issues, harmful language, and potential cultural inaccuracies. So that's Spell Check for Bias. Keep an eye out for it, integrate it in your productions as we get back to work. Hopefully the strike doesn't last that long. What came after Me Too? Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter, major movement that we still need to tap into because we don't have racial parity, especially not in Hollywood, but we're going that direction in New Hollywood. Racism is unmasked in this industry right now. Don't fucking support the racists. A lot of them hold the purse strings. A lot of them have power in this industry, so it becomes harder to fight it. But we have to fight it. We have to speak up. We have to speak up for the people of color, for Black Lives Matter in this industry, for representation within shows, diversity, cultural representation on screen. Because the more we see representation on screen, the more power these groups have. And hopefully this is going to also help offset the kind of horrific racism and violence that we're seeing inside of our communities in the United States. There has always been a ripple effect between what starts in the media on screen and what ends up being the experience of people in our communities. And we have a fight in front of us right now, make no mistake. I want to stop seeing the tokenism in the writers' rooms. No more toxic microaggressions, people. No more, here's our one Black woman to represent all Black people on our show. It's really unfair. It's super unjust. My DMs are often lit up by people, writers who are talking about this issue, who are outraged and have every right to be outraged. And it's up to all of us to make sure that's not happening on our watch. So treat people like human beings. Be a good listener. Get fucking training if you need it. And read Black white writers and watch Black shows and read queer writers and intersectional voices, because New Hollywood is the future. It's the future we all want to create on screen. It's the Star Trek future where there's inclusion on the bridge. It's so important to have a voice and have representation in our society. Representation matters. So we're calling out old Hollywood. We're tearing it down. We're preparing for a future that's more like that ecosystem, right? So, okay, let's talk about the writers' strike news. Many writers, as this is coming up and coming out through my listening, especially on social media, are food insecure, working gig jobs. These are professional working writers, members of the WGA, who can't earn a living without residuals, and inside of these mini rooms where they just don't have the kind of runway and time on a show that gives them the earning power and income to be able to do ordinary things like buy food and groceries and pay rent and pay the mortgage. And there's this huge disparity inside the industry for working writers, not to mention pre-WGA, the writers who really want to participate and join this industry as part of the workforce. It needs to be a career. So enter the greatest hero, our superhero of the age. If you haven't seen her on Twitter, I'm going to cut to her speech now. Lindsay Dougherty. Lindsay, turns out the leader we've all been waiting for is a woman with no fucks left to give. She is so fantastic. And I think pretty much all of us have a crush on her. Everyone I talk to has a crush on her. But let's go ahead and hear what she has to say in her own words.
Los Angeles, Layla, we fire up! When I say you say down! Union down! Union down! Union down! All right. I'm Lindsay Dougherty. I'm the principal officer of Teamsters Local 399. Yeah, that's fucking right. How many Teamsters here? All right. So we've heard from the WGA, we've heard from SAG about these employers that we get to deal with called the AMPTP, the Alliance, yeah, boo! The Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers, also known as the Evil Empire. So we're going to stand in solidarity with SAG-AFTRA, DGA, WGA, IATSE, the Hollywood Basic Crafts, AFM, for every single fight we have with those employers. Because when we fight together, we win together, right? That's right. When we fight, we win. When we fight, we win. Now, we have one more employer that we're dealing with, because everybody loves fucking acronyms in Hollywood, the Association of Independent Commercial Producers, and they're wanting to give us a fight right now. They're not wanting to give our members the fair wages that they deserve. That's right. Well, we're ready to take a commercial break with them. If we are provoked, we will strike. Right? That's right. Now, I'm going to leave you with this. For all the bad employers out there, I think WGA knows what I'm going to say. If you want to fuck around, you're going to find out. Thank you.
You want to fuck around, you're going to find out. When we fight, we win. I think the only thing the studios and writers are going to agree on anytime soon is that Lindsay Dougherty should play herself in the movie of her life. Let's talk a little bit more about what's up in the news right now. Maybe in the worst corporate brand move in history, HBO Max is now just Max, which I think is proof that David Zaslav has no female friends. Because wait, TJ Maxx need a maxi pad or a maxi dress? Like, what does Max mean to any of us? It means basically nothing. It is the watered down destruction of a legacy brand that we actually all really, really cared about. My own mentor, especially Gary Shandling, who basically built HBO with Larry Sanders Show early on. I don't know how that's going to go any better than it's already going. But if you've experienced logging in, you actually have to log back into a new app that downloads onto your TV, which is just Max. And I don't know. I feel like there's going to have to be a CEO in the future who fixes all of that, because I can't see, even though the board like approved his insane salary pay package of whatever, it's closing in on $250 million when you include all the stock, that they were like, yes, okay, go ahead. Why? Because he is making Disco Bros profitable through cuts. He's killing Batgirl. He's a known racist. He's, firing people of color from his team, but he's moving the studio closer to profitability through all of these cuts. So what is the board going to say? They hired him to do this. So the future will tell more. But largely, I think he's pretty hated and villainized, although he doesn't give a shit because he was in Cannes partying his ass off with Scarlett Johansson and the rest, wasn't he? All right, let's talk a little bit more about big picture. We're going to zoom out to big picture. I want to show you the media map that Evan Shapiro created. He's always updating it, so we're going to look at the most recent media map from Evan Shapiro is at NYU. If you're not following him, you should subscribe to his Substack and check out what he's doing. He is a data genius, data wizard. All right, so this is our media universe in 2023. He released this media map earlier this month, and we're in May. Let's go big picture in this segment, okay? So what are you seeing here? It's like every media company on planet Earth. What are we seeing that is noticeable about this map? Noticeable about this map as your eyes glance around. Okay, Apple, upper left corner, worth 2.7 trillion. Amazon, lower right corner, worth 1.1 trillion. Netflix is on your upper right at 143 billion. Disney is right in the middle there at 168 billion. Disney, on the heels of Netflix, has grown really fast, haven't they? They don't have their subscribers released or posted in this map, but Netflix is still out on top with 230 million subs. I was looking through this map, like, where is Lionsgate? Where's Stars? And that should be really noticeable to you, because especially as writers, above the line creatives, when we go out pitching, as we will be, because the strike won't last forever, even though it feels like it will right now. When you go out pitching, you're going out and, you're pitching the landscape. You're pitching Lionsgate as you're pitching Apple, or you're pitching Stars, you're pitching Amazon. But these media companies are not created equal. They're not anywhere close to equal. And you might say, oh, well, but 2.7 trillion is all of Apple. And obviously that's a lot of AirPods. That's not just Apple TV. But you better believe that these bigger companies like Amazon, like Apple, are going to offset their media television divisions with all the revenue from everything else that they do. And that's true of Disney with the theme parks as well. So it's just to say, with some future predictions, I really think that we're going to see some consolidations. We're going to see some mergers, acquisitions. I mean, you're looking at like Lionsgate down here in the middle. If you can even find it, it's under Media Universe 2023, about 2 inches down. Worth about 2 billion, $2 billion. I mean, that's big dollars, but look at this landscape. It's really easy to predict how going forward that the big fish are going to gobble up some of the little fish. And we're going to see some of the instability and volatility that we're seeing in the industry right now start to focus in with the bigger players. And I think that in my, possible prediction for the way that the strike could go is that you're going to see some of these bigger players break off from the other players all couched inside of the AMPTP, and they're going to strike individual deals with the WGA. Why? Well, if you look at Apple up here, it's like our Jupiter in our solar system on the upper left. What do they have in common with Warner Discovery? What do they have in common with the Disco Bros? Does the Think Differently company that has always supported creators going to stay aligned to the egregious decision making that's happening inside of the AMPTP right now as the, communication touch point of all of the media companies? Now, I know on Twitter, and I've had some, healthy discussions with other significant experts in this industry, writers and showrunners, who think and believe that the old media companies, legacy media companies in this industry, should be the ones to break with the AMPTP and negotiate individually with the WGA. I think it's going to go the other way around. Even though the streamers have been branded as ugly and evil and all the rest, they're Silicon Valley, y'all. They're 20th century technology. And yes, they're tech. And yes, they're Wall Street. And yes, they're bottom line. But they treat their employees really, really well. Employees, in a lot of cases, get stock options. There is significant healthcare and pension and 401k support. I'm like, why can't writers get all of that? And you make a deal with an Apple TV, you should be getting stock. You should be getting a piece of what you are supporting. And I think that we may see them break. I'm completely speculating, but I think it is possible. So I will be continuing to bring you Evan's brilliant media maps. You want to stay on the pulse of this, because there are some trends that he has highlighted, one of which I won't go into in this particular episode of the show, but I'll go into in the future, is retail media. YouTube is as big as Netflix in the international media space. And that's really important to remember, because as we come out of all of these negotiations and the strike, and potentially strikes, plural, we're looking at a future wherein retail media is part of like the future of advertising. And this has always been an advertising supported industry. All these companies are trying to figure it out, and their network is still way far ahead of figuring out the advertising model, but they're losing subscribers. Cable's losing subscribers. So it's a pretty chaotic landscape. And I think the prediction is we're just going to see continued chaos, especially through the end of this year. So the other thing that's been happening there that is insane is that the tax write-offs that the studios are taking is truly terrifying for writers and creatives. Yes, we all know that we lost Batgirl from the Disco Bros, who killed Batgirl and took it as a tax write-off, which is something like none of us really realized that could happen. It's like watching your mom eat one of your siblings and going, I know she's capable of that. And it's horrifying. And now Disney has just done it as well and sunk a bunch of their shows, and possibly they could be dead forever. We have no idea. Beautiful movies like The Princess, from my friends Jake and Ben, that were supposed to be available streaming forever, so their children could grow up watching the movie that their dads made, and all of our little girls could grow up seeing an awesome badass princess on screen. I don't know what's going to happen if they could ever see those movies again that have been lost. I think we're going to see that possibility contractually prevented in the future, because there's no writer, showrunner, creator who's going to willingly sign on and say, yeah, go ahead and you destroy my life's work. Yes, we know there's tons of examples of when a showrunner is brought on to create a show and write a pilot and even film a pilot, and it doesn't go into production. This industry is fraught with that kind of loss, but there's just this new level of loss that has really tilted the tables, like playing marbles with a bully when you're a kid. Like what good is it to play the game if the bully always gets all the marbles? It just isn't a fun game to play anymore, hence the strike. So I do think the strike could go on certainly for the rest of June, because we're going to see the DGA and SAG-AFTRA negotiations and where that lands with the AMPTP. As we know, the studios are prepared for the strike to go into autumn. They all have the same lame-ass talking point about how shored up they are. It's a talking point for Wall Street. Oh, we prepared for this. We're fine. We're going to ride it out. We're all good. Not all good. Those same studios that control, by the way, the news outlets, many of them, mean that there's kind of a blackout happening about the writers' strike. And will Imagine Dragons or some of these other bigger people, Colin Farrell and others, still be with us on the picket lines several months from now? Can we still continue to bring the heat and the attention that's needed? It's really important. Pick up the phone, call your celebrity friends, be like, hey, we need more than donuts. We need you to bring the cameras down to the picket lines. One of the biggest talking points in the negotiations, of course, as you know, has been AI. I did on my podcast recently an episode with AI thought leader Manoj Agarwal. If you haven't listened to that, you should go listen to that after this, because Manoj was very optimistic about AI not taking away the jobs from writers, but that we can keep writers like the WJ wants at the helm of this technology. And I have just one thought about it, which is that AI should really be its own genre. It should be its own genre. We should keep it in its own lane and say, hey, here's this AI division of the entertainment business. And isn't that awesome? And check it out. And here's what that's doing. And then here's all the human beings who've been part of this industry forever. We have to create a society where we draw the bottom line below the heart. That's really what it comes down to. Otherwise, we're just going to have, like I saw somebody on Twitter saying, like, we're going to have robots. You know, we're all going to end up doing the jobs we hate and have robots doing our art. And that's just not the kind of society that we want to create in the future. I got one more picture to show you because I love this photo from the picket line. Thank you, Ken, for sharing it, of Oscar winner David Seidler telling truths on the picket line. I wrote the King's Speech. AI doesn't know what it's like to stutter. That's the fucking truth of it, isn't it? I mean, that's where we are, is writers matter. The storytellers of our lives, the power that is in our stories, of our vulnerability and our human heartedness and our interconnectedness, is not going to be in good hands with robots. That's kind of the base sum of it. So let me leave you with my recommendations, because as we say in my household, complaint without action is unacceptable. So we're going to go ahead and have some actions, because we have a lot of complaints right now. So what are my recommendations? If you are in Los Angeles, if you are in New York, go picket. Everyone is welcome on the picket lines. You don't have to be a member of the WJ. You don't even have to be pre-WJ, although all y'all should be down there. Go picket. Go bring water and LaCroix to the writers and bagels and be their heroes, and walk the picket and make some friends. This is a great time for you to make friends in the industry. It's really important for you to make friends. Everybody who's walking that picket line, that's going to be where our future shows come from. You know, that's true. A lot of the showrunners, by the way, are not reading anyone. Don't bug them about getting reads. But if you have friends and you have peers and you have writers groups in the industry, read each other right now. Make friends, read somebody's script, and support what is happening. I highly recommend that you get education. This is a good time for you to focus the lens on your craft. There are some really fantastic places to get educated. Writer Jeff Howard just created a YouTube channel. You should go subscribe to that, because he is full of truth and wisdom and lots of great information, especially on the business and craft side, to help you support you in your careers. My friend showrunner Eric Rogers is threatening to start some animation writing classes, especially for kids, but a lot of us have raised our hands and say, we want to learn. So go follow him on Twitter in case he makes good on that threat and actually brings us some animation writing classes, because he is the best in the biz. And that would be really fun to see. And of course, you can join me in the Entertainment Business School in August. We start August the 7th, and the applications will be open for that in July. And I will be bringing you more information about that. In the Entertainment Business School, we as a class get together, we study this stuff. We look at the breaking news, what's going on in the business, and how can you be positioned for the career that you want. We're in a massively changing landscape right now, and you really need to be thinking about your positioning when we come out of this strike. Where are you going to be? Last note on this, and I think it's really one of the most important ones, is please take care of your mental health right now. The strike is terrifying. A lot of my colleagues and students are out of work, and this is a time wherein make sure that you're getting the support that you need. Reach out. Don't be alone. Don't isolate. Don't close the door. Open a door. Take a hand. Make sure that you're getting the support that you need and taking care of your heart and your mind. Go do the yoga. Don't go off your medication. Do all the important things that are going to keep you in your center so that we can come out of this all linking elbows as one wolf pack. For now, you need to stay on Twitter. I'm sorry. I know we all tried Spoutable and Mastodon and all the other animals like where we could be tweeting, but not tweeting. And right now it's all happening on Twitter for now, for today. I keep saying this, like Twitter's here for now. It's here for now. You should be there. That's where all this information is. A lot where I'm getting a lot of my information as well. My last big tip for you is the biggest one. And I don't have time to go into it in such great detail in this episode of the show, but you need to be building your audience. I recommend building an audience on YouTube or growing an email list, creating a newsletter. Build and grow your audience. Why? Because when you have a movie come out, when you have a show come out, you want to own your audience. You want to be able to talk to them. You don't want your audience to be gate kept behind the buyers, right? Netflix is never going to share your audience with you, ever. You're not going to even get any demographics or view numbers, nothing, unless they release it to the press. So you want to be at the helm of your own starship, right? Of your own audience, so that you can talk to them and say, I'm so excited to share with you my new show, my new movie, my new book, whatever you've been working on. Work on that novel right now as we're in the midst of the strike, and keep talking to your audience. Be thinking about growing your subscribers. Why? Because your reps are also going to be able to use that to negotiate for you in the future and get you better deals. The bigger audience that you come in with, the more money you can command. So get in front of it, start to do the research, decide to get out there and talk to your fans, grow your fan base. You can do it now. I'm Kaia Alexander. Please like this video, subscribe to the show, follow me on Twitter at This Is Kaia, and also my company at EntBizLeague on Twitter and Instagram. And I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Until then, stay centered, stay grounded, and stay in your heart.